Hey everyone. Okay, so I would like to tell you about some books that I read recently. I may or may not have talked to you about these books. I'm just going to tell you about them again if I haven't, because they're here on my shelf and they haven't been put into the haven't done a video or have already done a video about them pile. So these are a few books that I'm just gonna talk about. We're just gonna see where the spirit takes us. Okay, so there are 4 books. I read them in the last quarter of 2022, and I'm just going to give you some impressions. This is not going to be a full review. I'll just tell you a little bit about what I remember and whether I recommend them. So the first one is Skin of the Sea. Okay, Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. And the synopsis is: Simi prayed to the gods once, now she serves them as Mami Wata, a mermaid, collecting the souls of those who die at sea and blessing their journeys back home. But when a living boy is thrown overboard, Simi does the unthinkable. She saves his life, going against an ancient decree, and punishment awaits those who dare to defy it. To protect the other Mami Wata, Simi must journey to the Supreme Creator to make amends, but all is not as it seems. There's the boy she rescued who knows more than he should, and something is shadowing Simi, something that would rather see her fail. Danger lurks at every turn, and as Simi draws closer, she must brave vengeful gods, treacherous lands, and legendary creatures. But if she doesn't, then she risks not just the fate of all Mami Wata, but also the world as she knows it. I did purchase the synopsis to this, which is up there somewhere. It's got a very nice cover. I cannot see it. I'm bending all the way back and I can't see it. But I remember that the cover is a lot darker than this one. Okay, I'm going to stop looking for it. So this was okay, to be honest. It was okay. You know that I love Black Mermaids. I'm a sucker for a Black Mermaid story. If you give me a Black Mermaid story, I'm gonna read it. This story was... I like that it took place on the sea, on the water. There's a little bit of on land, and there are a lot of interesting magical creatures actually. And it is YA, so it had a sort of love thing, and then it had a sort of angst. Who am I gonna be? Coming of age, kind of what decisions am I gonna make? I just needed more complexity to the story. And I do think that YA stories can be complex. This kind of wasn't as much as it could have been. If you compare this, for example, to something like The Deep, right, by Rivers Solomon, you have, an exceptional story, shorter, still at sea, still an underwater creature, trying to make some decisions, trying to do things a little bit differently. And then, there's some similar beats. This is an exceptional story. This is okay. I think this is their first Natasha Bowen's, I don't know. I think it was their first. I think this is their debut. And I know that they've continued to write, and I think that we need to see more from Natasha, but I did feel like there could have been more to the story. I enjoyed the world building. I enjoyed the Orisha. I enjoyed the fact that this does what I think a story about the Middle Passage, it does what it's supposed to do, which is relieve us, right? These stories are supposed to help African descended people make sense of the harm that was done to us and to imagine in that moment of pain, right? So when we are stolen from Africa and brought over to the Caribbean or to Latin America or North America, when that's during that passage, we need stories that fill up that space and help us to heal. And I think that this is a story that imagines in that particular moment, and I think that's really powerful and really beautiful. And so I enjoyed that. And yet there was a little bit more that I really needed. So I think I'll leave it at that. I do think that if you are interested in YA, like fantasy, speculative fantasy that has the themes of like Middle Passage and themes of, you know, choosing, like, do I let history unfold or do I change it, right? Should I be revolutionary, or should I just stay in this little box that was created for me? What happens if I disobey? Can there be a third way? Like, those are all really important questions as we all develop and as we all figure out like how we respond to oppression. Do we just like take the roles that are given to us, or are we the ones who are supposed to change the trajectory of history? Like, these are really important questions for anybody who's thinking about their role as an activist or their role as, you know, an engaged person in community, or as an elder, whatever it is. So like, very important questions. I hope that maybe in the second book we see more development of this character, but that is Skin of the Sea. This one is Lakewood by Megan Giddings, and this I enjoyed. It was trippy and creepy, and this is the story. I'll just read this. This was a debut. So when Lena Johnson's beloved grandmother dies and the full extent of the family debt is revealed, the black millennial drops out of college to support her family and takes a job in the mysterious and remote town of Lakewood, Michigan. On paper, her new job is too good to be true. All Lena has to do is participate in a secret research program full of seemingly world-changing discoveries: an eye drop that makes brown eyes blue, a medication that could be a cure for dementia, golden pills promised to make all bad things go away, but the consequences for the subjects involved could be devastating. As the truths of the program reveal themselves, Lena learns how much she's willing to sacrifice for the sake of her family. Provocative and thrilling, Lakewood is a breathtaking novel that takes an unflinching look at the horrors that has been forced on black bodies in the name of science. I enjoyed this. It gave me Black Mirror vibes. It gave me Twilight Zone energy. It gave me like X-Files, you know, like the institution that's, you know, experimenting on people. You can't trust these scientific, you can't trust these scientific experiments. And also, we are always looking for Black and Indigenous bodies to experiment on for the good of humankind. But then the things that, the discoveries that are made as a result of those experiments rarely actually benefit the Black people, right? So it's got notes of Tuskegee trials and a lot of other trials, right, for drugs. There was a thread in here that was really unfinished, I think, though. As much as this story took up questions about institutional trauma and anti-Black racism in science and in medicine and in politics, it failed to go the distance, I think. Because I guess we got such a personal look at the experiments and the harm caused, and we didn't really get, and the intergenerational trauma caused, we didn't get more, like a maybe not quite a happy ending, but like resolution. It just felt like this was kind of like right? And there were like the experiments were very interesting, and like the main character struggled to figure out what was happening to her and what she had actually sacrificed, and if she'd ever healed from this, and you know, her finding out about her grandmother and her mother and their experiences. It was all good, but the edges were unfinished, right? So I would recommend this, actually, as much as I'm kind of like, it still kind of creeps me out a little bit. So, Lakewood. Bad Witch Burning by Jessica Lewis. So this is a story of a young medium. Oh, let me just read it. So Cottrell can talk to the dead, and she wishes it made more money. She's been able to support her unemployed mother and mom's deadbeat boyfriend of the week so far, but it isn't enough. Money's still tight, and to complicate things, Cottrell has started to draw attention, not from this world, but from beyond, and it comes with a warning: stop, or there will be consequences. Cottrell is willing to call the ghosts on her bluff. She has no choice. What do ghosts know of having sleep for dinner? But when her next summoning accidentally raises someone from the dead, Cottrell realizes that a live body is worth a lot more than a dead apparition, and warning or not, she has no intention of letting this lucrative new business go. Only magic isn't free, and dark voices are coming to collect. Now Cottrell faces a choice: resign herself to poverty or confront the darknesses before it's too late. So what I liked about this was the class commentary, the race commentary here. There's a bit of like queer coming of age, but doesn't really get developed so much in the book. If you like zombies, raising of the dead, mediums, graveyards, darkness, ghosts, bumps in the night, that stuff, you've got all of that here, combined with like some high school hijinks. You get that as well. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of violence in this. There's domestic violence. There's violence at school. There's random violence on the street. Like there's death and killing, right? There's a lot here. I wasn't quite prepared for all of that, but I guess it is called Bad Witch Burning, right? Like it's gritty and there's some violence. So I think you got to sort of be ready for that. But I think what this does, though, is it creates a safer space, I think, for the anger that young Black girls and femmes experience at the ages of like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, especially if you are considered to be, if you're in a dysfunctional home, you're the one that's responsible for being like the adult. I think that in this particular story, the main character, Cottrell, I believe lives with her mom and her mom's boyfriend. Her mom's boyfriend is violent. Her mom isn't working. And so Cottrell is the one who brings in money, and that money is being taken by the boyfriend to do untold things. And so, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of burden on this girl. And the interesting thing about the one stories or stories where you have a young person who has a lot of power is that when those stories are told from the perspective of a middle class or an upper middle class child or teenager who isn't responsible for bringing in the bacon, as they say, you don't get any of the other parts of life, right? You just get them on their broomsticks at their private schools, living their best lives, but they don't have to actually contend with taking care of other people or figuring out how to, be responsible in their communities or any of those kinds of things. And I think Bad Witch Burning brings those real life considerations for a lot of young people, in particular Black young people, to the present. And I think those are real questions, right? Like if you can bring somebody back from the dead and you've got an abusive family member, what do you do with that power? Right? Is that a way to keep yourself and the people you care about safe? Right? So it just asks some important questions. So I enjoyed it. Again, it's YA. So if you want to read YA, you could read that. I learned last year, I say learned like I didn't know this about myself, but I don't want to read a lot of YA anymore. It's unfortunate because I think some of the themes that get explored in YA could be explored in adult books, but we don't get that as much. There's this kind of like shift that happens in terms of the themes, which is a little bit unfortunate, which is why I sometimes go back to YA. I think I prefer middle grade more than I do YA. I don't know. But if you can deal with like a YA type book, if you're good with that, you should definitely read it. And then this one is Artie and the Wolf Moon, and it's a graphic novel, and it was very sweet. And it is a story about Artie who figures out that she's more than human. And again, one of the cool things about this book is that Artie is going to school with some bullies. And so she's learning, you've got this like vampire werewolf thing happening. I mean, it's pretty clear. She's got red eyes and she's running at night with wolves. So like, it's not a spoiler that she's a werewolf. But, you know, she's also like a black nerdy werewolf. And so she deals with the things that black nerds deal with in schools that are not majority black, right? So again, what happens when you are in a space that's predominantly white, you're experiencing bullying and you don't have support for that, but you're also super brilliant and you're a werewolf? How do you deal with all of that? So it's not about an allegory of difference. It's more about the fact that stories of magical kids and magical youth have to be about more than just their magic. It has to be about them in context. So those are some of the books that I finished towards the end of 2022. Apologies if I've talked about them before, but, you know, organizing my shelves and getting back into making videos means that I might be talking about a book twice. And, you know, if I talked about this before, you can go back and see if I have the same opinion. If now that I'm a more mature woman, I'm six months more mature than the last time I filmed something, maybe my views have changed. I don't know. Tommy, what do you think?
Can you repeat that?
I was saying that I just gave the people some views about some books that I read, and I might have reviewed them before, but I've forgotten. And I thought, well, maybe if my views are different, it's just because I'm more mature now. I'm an older, wiser woman than I was 6 months ago. I think that's a legitimate explanation for if I like a book now that I didn't like before.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. But what's interesting is, did you say all that and then say, what do you think, Tommy?
I did.
Oh, okay. So you literally repeated what you said. Because I have my noise-canceling headphones on for everybody who's listening.
Yeah.
And watching. I think you are growing into the beauty that you are, and you continue to grow and be beautiful and wonderful and reflective. You know what it is? It's your critical thinking skills that you got from years and years of academic practice, your legal mind, and your reflective process. It's wonderful. And I'm glad that everything that I'm saying is amusing. Because I'm starting my comedy channel.
Okay, so
no, I'm not.
Find yourself a spouse who can pull out her noise canceling headphones and give you the best conclusion to your video ever. Read with purpose, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.